Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to our hadith class. We are doing the kitab known as Riyaadhus Saaliheen of Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah. And tonight, inshallah ta'ala, we are starting a very important topic, a very misunderstood topic, yet very important. So let us begin. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So the chapter for tonight, inshallah, we are doing is Babun fin Naseehah, the chapter with regards to Naseehah. Now, if I were to ask anybody, what does Naseehah mean? Majority of people, without question, would jump up and say that Naseehah means advice, or good advice at most. And that is, to a degree, part of what the word means. But the word nasiha is extremely deep, far deeper than what the majority of people tend to think it to be. So inshallah ta'ala, in tonight's class, we'll touch on what exactly nasiha is as far as the Deen is concerned. So let's go with the verbatim-ish translation that many people tend to know. So the chapter with regards to nasiha, good advice, even though you'll see what the real meaning is shortly. Or let me give it anyway. What's the point of holding on? So nasiha from a Shari'i perspective is good advice is one small aspect of nasiha. Nasiha means to have sincerity, to have a good, wanting everything of the best for the next person. That is nasiha. So when you have this meaning in your mind and you now look at the word nasiha as good advice, then you understand that when you are saying you are giving somebody nasiha, then you are meaning that I am wanting only the best for you, hence why I am telling you that which will benefit you. That is how good advice translates from the word of nasiha. But nasiha, like I say, is much more than this. But you'll see it shortly, inshallah. So as is the norm, Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah, he begins with certain ayat of the Quran. So he says, قال تعالى إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم, from Surah Al-Hujurat, wherein Allah says, إنما المؤمنون إخوة, verily the believers are brothers. فأصلحوا بين أخويكم, so make islah, fix up the issues, fights, arguments, things like this. Make islah between your brothers. So you understand already from this ayah, if it is good advice, for example, if the word nasiha was as short-sighted as being advice only, then how does this ayah relate to it? Because you are brothers, Okay, so as brothers, you must give each other good advice. Sure, definitely, that form part and parcel of it, but it's much more than just that. So when you look at the ayah, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ, the Muslims are a brother to another. Muslims are brothers to one another. And as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, the famous hadith, we'll do it here shortly also, that you love for your brother what you love for yourself, meaning that you want them to go forward the way you want yourself to go forward. You want the best for yourself, you want the best for them. That is what nasiha is. And thus, when you understand that the believers are brothers, then that is part of your nasiha. Moving on to the next ayah, it says, وَقَالَ تَعَالَى إِخْبَارًا عَنْ نُوحَ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ وَأَنصَحُ لَكُمْ. In Surah Al-A'raf, when Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam speaks to his people and he says, Allah Ta'ala speaks in this ayah from Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, who was addressing his people, and he says, وَأَنصَحُ لَكُمْ. We would translate it as, and I give you nasiha. But in reality, he is saying that I am being sincere in my counsel to you. I am wanting only the best for you. When I'm calling you to Allah, I'm only wanting to save you in this world, in the year after. I'm not calling you to something which is bad. I'm not doing it for my benefit. I'm doing it for your benefit. So I want the best for you. I would have wanted it for myself. So وَأَنصَحُ لَكُمْ. And then he says, وَعَنْ هُودَ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ. And like Allah mentions from Hazrat Hud alayhi salam, once again speaking to his people, and he says, وَأَنَا لَكُمْ نَاصِحٌ أَمِينٌ. And I am a trustworthy nasih, a person who gives nasiha. So I am a trustworthy person who is giving you reliable, sincere counsel, only wanting what is absolutely best for you. That is what I am wanting for you. So you understand from these ayat how nasiha actually works from a Shari'i perspective. But moving on, he says, وَأَمَّا الْأَحَادِيث. As for the ahadith, فالأول hadith number 182. The first hadith of this chapter عن أبي رقية تميم بن أوس الداري رضي الله عنه. That Abu Ruqayya رضي الله عنه, not really known by his kunya, he's famously known by his name, is Hadrat Tamim ibn Aus ad-Dari رضي الله عنه. Hadrat Tamim ad-Dari رضي الله عنه. You'll know him famously as the hadith with regards to the Sahabi who met Dajjal. So him with some people that were with him when they were on the ship, and the ship was blown off course, and they found themselves on an island, and the Jassasa came, and the Jassasa took them to this person was chained up in a cave, and that was Dajjal. All of that whole incident. He came back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina, and he related the whole story. Hazrat Tamim Ad-Dari radiallahu anhu is also the one who put the first lamps in Masjid al-Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Hazrat Tamim Ad-Dari radiallahu anhu, great Sahabi, but most famously known for that incident of his meeting with Dajjal. So he narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam قال, that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, ad-Deen nasiha, the Deen is nasiha. This Deen itself is nasiha. And thus you may find often at times, in fact, people translate this ayah, this hadith as this, the Deen is good advice. Not all that much. Partly true, but not entirely. And you understand why from the next part as the hadith carries on, because the hadith doesn't end there, it goes further. So the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they replied, they said, Qulna, we said, liman, to whom is this nasiha? If you say it's good advice, then to whom are we to be giving this good advice? So like I say, you'll see shortly. So qala, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam replied, saying, lillahi, to Allah, ولكتابه, and to the book of Allah, ولرسوله, and to the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ولأئمة المسلمين, to the leaders of the Muslims, وعامتهم, and the normal rank and file Muslim. Rawahu Muslim, Imam Muslim rahimahullah is the narrator of this hadith. So now you understand just from this, the very first word said by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, lillahi. Now if you take it as good advice, are you giving good advice to Allah? وَنَعُوذَ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. You see how far removed it is from reality if you restrict nasiha from its actual shari meaning and you turn it into the modern minuscule version of what the actual essence of the word is. So the essence of nasiha is absolute sincerity. That is what the essence of nasiha is about. So when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that this deen is sincerity, that's how it's actually translated. The Deen is sincerity in everything. So thus the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, they asked that, to whom is this absolute sincerity? So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, first and foremostly, lillahi, to Allah. That in everything you do for Allah, you do it with sincerity. When you worship Allah with sincerity, not for riyah. When you, if you give for the sake of Allah, you do it for the sake of Allah, sincerely for the sake of Allah. You fast sincerely for the sake of Allah, not to detox, not to lose weight, but for the sake of Allah. You go for Hajj for the sake of Allah, not for the shopping experience. So with everything, lillahi. For when you deal with Allah, everything has to be entirely with ikhlas. So nasiha and ikhlas can be synonyms in that sense, that you are having absolute sincerity in all your interactions, whatever you do for the sake of Allah. So that's number one. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Wali kitabihi," and for the book of Allah, meaning the Quran. So how did it relate to the Quran? Once again, you can't give good advice to the Quran, So what does it mean? It means that sincerity to the Quran, that you read it the way it should be read. You recite it with the tajweed, because as Imam Ibn al-Jazari, Muhammad ibn al-Jazari al-Shafi'i rahimahullah says in his famous Muqaddimatul Jazariyah, when he says, والأخذ بالتجويد حتم لازم من لم يجود القرآن آثم لأنه به الإله أنزلا وهكذا منه إلينا وصلا. In his مقدمة known as the Muqaddimatul Jazariyah, Imam Ibn al-Jazari rahimahullah, he says, وَالْأَخْذُ بِالتَّجْوِيدِ حَتْمٌ لَازِمٌ. Reciting the Quran with tajweed is something which is an absolute necessity. مَنْ لَمْ يُجَوِّدِ الْقُرْآنَ, it's read in this form as Qur'ana. Whoever does not read the Quran with tajweed is a sinner. لِأَنَّهُ بِهِ الْإِلَهُ أَنزَلَ, because in this manner with tajweed is how Allah had revealed it. وَهَكَذَا مِنْهُ إِلَيْنَا وَصَلَى. And in this manner it had reached us. So from Allah to Jibreel alayhi salam to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to us. So there is no option. It's not an option to read with tajweed or not. So therefore, your nasiha to the Quran is reciting it with tajweed. Number one. Number two is to make a amal upon the ahkam and the laws and stay away from the prohibitions. Everything that Allah has told you in the Quran, to make a amal upon it. That is your sincerity towards the Quran. Otherwise, you are like those people, la yujawizu hanajirahum. As Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, there will be people who will come, they will recite the Quran and it will not go beyond their throats. So it will come out of their throat, but it will not penetrate their heart. So do not be of those people. So your sincerity with the Quran is that, like you, Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they would read an ayah and make a amal upon it and then move on to the next ayah. Not let me amass everything and then never make amal upon it. So your nasiha to the Quran is fulfilling the command and abstaining from the nawahi, the prohibitions that the Quran has laid down, which is from the side of Allah. So that is لِكِتَابِهِ وَلِرَسُولِهِ. The next one, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, is for the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, meaning for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And this comes in the form of ittiba'ati sunnah, obedience to the sunnah. And we did previously just the chapter on the importance of following the sunnah, the salvation in the sunnah, and everything of the sort. So that entire chapter, you can apply it over here. So wali rasulihi means that you are absolutely sincere in your interactions with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Number one, so that you are not from the people of Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, the Ra'isul Munafiqeen, the head of the Munafiqeen, who would show one face and then behind the back of the Muslims, they would be, like with their kuffar friends and be like, no, we only just put up a show with them. We actually really with you. And we see enough of the world filled with these type of people today. But in any case, so with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nasiha is that you are sincere. Anything that the Sunnah tell in our times, making it applicable for us. Obviously, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was to be sincere in all your dealings, in everything you say, in what Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam tell you, you accept it and put it into practice. You don't find an aversion in your heart towards it. All such things. In our time today, we don't have Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam here in front of us that we are physically dealing with, as a result of which we are dealing with the sunnah. So when we deal with the sunnah, we must have that sincerity that this is the sunnah of my Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I must try my utmost to be upon the sunnah. So that is wali rasulihi. Then wali a'immatil muslimin, to the khalifa primarily, that is the imam of the Muslims. This imam here is not referring to Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad, as in imams of fiqh and hadith and tafsir and so on and so forth, but rather this is the hukam, the rulers of the Muslims. So when you have the Khalifa, like you had the Khulafa al-Rashideen, they Khilafat had run well because the people they had around them were people of sincerity. Hazrat Abu Bakr had Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu had those like Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu. And so on and so forth it went. By the time when Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu had become the Khalifa, there were some Sahaba radiallahu anhu who were there. But at that time, many of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu had already passed away. There was the Shia had come about, the Khawarij had come about, the different people of this nature. So as a result of which the Khilafah began to weaken on account of the fact that sincerity was no longer there, because now you had rebels, you had Khawarij, you had Shia Kafir, and so on. And as the time went on, it became worse and worse. So the point being, when you have a Khalifa or a Muslim ruler, the Sultan, you are sincere towards him in what he does of goodness. This does not mean if you have a taghut ruling over you and he rules بِغَيْرِ مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهِ, with other than what Allah has revealed, and he's a groveler for the kuffar, and he arrests Muslims, put them in jail because they are not selling the deen out. This is not the type of person. You don't have sincerity towards a person like this here and want all of the best. No, such people you make dua that Allah destroy them and replace them with people who are proper. So, not to make a confusion, some people may, you can't rebel against the rule, and no, As a default rule, you can't rebel against the ruler when he's on the right path. But when he strays and he goes into kufran bawaha, then you get rid of him and you remove him and kick him into the dustbin of history. So that's wali a'immatil Muslimin. And then lastly, wa'ammatihim, the rank and file Muslim, every random Muslim. You don't need to know a person to be sincere and kind towards him. You know, if you take religion out of the picture, there are many people in the world who, you see somebody struggling and you go and help them. People will say, the kind person that he is, you help the little old lady over the road, things of the sort, things which come as people would deem as being uh, inherent kindness. So when it comes to Islam and the Muslims, the general Muslim, you must have that kind of sincerity towards each and every single Muslim. Those that you know, those that you don't know. You must only want what is of the best. Now you come and you're like, I want to move forward in life, but you mustn't. I want to be more knowledgeable than you. I want to be richer than you. I want to have more, so on and so forth. So that's not the way a Muslim is. A Muslim is someone who wants other Muslims to succeed, not somebody who wants to be the only one that succeeds. And that's in a summary of this first hadith, ad-deen al-nasiha, that this deen is sincerity. Imam Muslim rahimahullah is the narrator of this hadith. Now before our time runs out, let's move on to the next hadith. Hadith number 183. الثاني عن جرير بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما قال بايعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Okay. The second hadith is reported by Hadrat Jarir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu, who said that I gave the bay'ah, the pledge of allegiance. I gave the pledge of allegiance to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam ala iqami salah wa ita'i zakah wa nushi li kulli muslim. There were three clauses that he took in the pledge of allegiance that he gave to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Number one, that the performance of salah, iqamatu salah, not just mere performance, but iqamatu salah. To speak on iqamatul salah would take a couple more minutes, but iqamatul salah means to fulfill every salah exactly on its time, with all of its conditions, not being late with it, in the masjid if you are a man, with jama'ah, with the takbiri ula. That is iqamatul salah, not just I'm making it late, even though it's qada. That's not regarded as iqamatul salah. But it's something you have to do one way or the other. If you must sit in jama'ah, you have to at the very least perform your salah. Even if it's qada, you have to perform your salah. There's no getting away from it at all. So number one, upon the establishment of salah. Number two, wa'ita is zakah, and the giving of zakah. So, hence hurubur ridda, the ridda wars which came about after the passing of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and some people saying, we're not going to give zakah. Some people saying that, zakah was only to be given to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam based on the ayah, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ. From that ayah, take from their wealth, meaning Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you take from their wealth, صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُم. Sadaqah here in the meaning of zakah to purify them. So anyway, they made this interpretation that no, it was only applicable to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But anyway, so Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu fought them to those who returned to Islam. Those who died on kufr. But the point being, the hurub ridda, the ridda wars that transpired from that point. So number two was the giving of zakah. No getting away from that fact. And the last one was one nushi li kulli Muslim, and to have sincerity to every Muslim. So yes, you will have good counsel for every Muslim. Yes, you will have good advice for every Muslim. But here, most importantly, you will have good feelings for another Muslim. You will be sincere in your dealings with another Muslim. That is the primary meaning of nasiha. Nushi from the word nasiha. That nasiha for every Muslim is that you are sincere and you want the best for him. Like you want yourself to go to Jannah, you must want him to go to Jannah. Like you want to be saved from Jahannam, you want him to be saved from Jahannam. Like you don't want to fall into sin, you must not want him to fall into sin. And when you understand this concept, then you realize why Amr bil Ma'ruf is important, why Nahi Anil Munkar is important, why warning people about evil ones is important, and all of these things, because it forms part and parcel of Nasiha. And if you are not doing this, then can you really say that you are sincere to the next person? Because this person is leading him astray to Jahannam, but you're like, what does it matter? Then you are not sincere. because then you like go to Jannah to Jahannam, it doesn't bother me. Then you are not really being sincere to the next person. So sincerity is that how it fits in is that every dealing that you have as a Muslim to another Muslim must be based on this. That like I want to succeed in this world and the year after, I must want each and every single Muslim to succeed in this world and the year after. متفق عليه. This hadith is reported both by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim رحمهم الله. Moving on now to the final hadith of this chapter, hadith number 184. الثالث, the third hadith of the chapter. عن أنس رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. متفق عليه. The third hadith is reported by Hadrat Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu, Khadimu Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, La yu'minu ahadukum, that none of you have iman. But obviously here, this means none of you have true and complete iman, meaning your iman is deficient if you are lacking in this, not that you are not a Muslim. So if we say you have no iman, that would not be factually correct. So we say that the la yu'minu, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam uses many times, it refers to kamaliyat, the perfection. None of you will achieve perfection in iman until you love for your brother that which you love for yourself. Until he loves, none of you shall achieve true iman until you love for until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. That's what Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam says. So if you are, regardless of what aspect it is of life, as long as it is something of goodness, don't mean because you are a zani, hey, there's no one who can commit zina like you, you the chief of zina in the world, so I want everyone to be a zani. No, that's evil, that don't count. But it means when it comes to things of goodness, that you can read Quran well, I want everybody to read Quran well. I'll strive also and teach so that people can pronounce the Quran correctly and read it properly. I will strive to teach the Deen so that people can have a better understanding of it. Things of the sort. Not for the sake of bigging myself up, but for the sake of making that the world out there can also know what Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam have given us. So Naseehah, is how this you love for your brother what you love for yourself. You want a nicer car, then you must want that your brother must have a nicer car. Now you come and you like, if you were pulling out a new car, you'll be over the moon. Yet when you see another Muslim pulling out a new car, and it's like, where do you get the money now from for that? What he's selling drugs now. When those type of thoughts cross your mind and such words echo get uttered from your mouth, then you have no sincerity for the next Muslim. Not only that, but you'll still be taken to task by Allah, as Allah tells us in the Quran, inna ba'da ithm. Verily, some, or at least assumptions are sinful. When you're making, I assume he must have sold drugs to be able to afford a car like that. You don't know how he came out with that money. You will just assume. Your assumption is based on nothingness, and you will be taken to task for it. But anyway, the point being, you love for your brother what you love for yourself. And your brother, as far as the Deen is concerned, is akhukal Muslim, your Muslim brother. So if this is for your kafir, you have a literal brother and he's not Muslim, then it does not apply to him. The Muslim takes precedent over your brother, that, as how does that quote go? العربي المسلم أخونا الحبيب no, it goes الأمريكي المسلم أخونا الحبيب والعربي الكافر عدونا البغيض ولو تشاركنا وإياه في رحم واحد. That the American Muslim is our beloved brother and the Arab kafir is our hated enemy, even if we are born from the same womb. In other words, even if we are blood brothers, but you are upon kufr, and that you coming now from the Quraysh, you are a Sayyid, offspring of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that man is the son of, maybe he's the son of George Bush for all a person knows, but he becomes a Muslim properly, not a munafiq, but he becomes a proper Muslim, then immediately he becomes your brother. You are the offspring of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he is the offspring of the enemy of Allah. But it doesn't matter. By him being Muslim, you two are brothers. And that person who was your twin, born from your same parents, but because he turns towards atheism, then he is a kafir fi nari jahannam, and he's your enemy. And that Muslim who was yesterday still drinking in the bar and everything of the sort, when he turns his life around and he believes in Allah, then he becomes your brother. And this one who you were born with, he becomes your enemy. But anyway, so brotherhood, as far as the deen is concerned, as Allah said, innamal mu'minuna ikhwa, the believers are brothers, not everyone, brothers in humanity. As all of the modernists come out today, if he's not my brother in faith, then he's my brother in humanity, and all these sort of things, the modern religion, Abrahamic Accord, and all these type of weird fangled kufr concepts and stuff that people have come out with. All of these things are foreign things to Islam. Brotherhood in Islam is based just upon that, Islam. If there is no Islam, there is no brotherhood. And thus, part and parcel of being a Muslim is having that sincerity from one Muslim to the next. You want good for you, you want good for him too. And if you don't have it, question your iman. In case that hadith is muttafaqun alayh, it's reported both by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahumullah, and it's the end of the chapter. And we will stop on this point here for tonight, inshallah ta'ala, because our time has just about elapsed and there will not be time to begin the new chapter. New chapter, great, very important topic in its own right. So inshallah ta'ala, we will resume this class next week, Tuesday, inshallah, except the class will not be starting at 8:45 p.m. South African time. Inshallah ta'ala, from next week, we will be beginning all classes from 9 o'clock at night. But that will be next week, inshallah ta'ala. Until then, we end for tonight and we say, وَصَلَّى اللَّهُ وَسَلَّمَ وَبَارَكَ عَلَى نَبِيِّنَا مُحَمَّدٍ سُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَبِحَمْدِهِ سُبْحَانَكَ اللَّهُمَّ وَبِحَمْدِكَ نَشْهَدُ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ نَسْتَغْفِرُكَ وَنَتُوبُ إِلَيْكَ وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ وَبَرَكَاتُهُ.